thought I'd make a quick little video on this little toy I got here. It's a little cheap lathe, around $100, $150 or so. Depends on where you get it, when you get it, whatnot. They're basically a learning tool. They're not out of the box a usable lathe. Some people think that. They buy them and they think it's just going to be a precision tool right out of the box. It's not. It's to learn how to use a lathe. I mean, if you want to use it as a tool, you can. You just have to make it work, which is what I did. But I bought it, well, for what it's for, to learn how to use a lathe. I mean, I've used a lathe before, but I've never tried to understand or tinker with one or really long-term make things. It's been working out pretty well. Bit of a learning curve for me for this one because, you know, nothing's precise with this one, so you have to work around certain situations. So basically, this is one of those, like I said, the cheap one, and I upgraded it right out of the box. I raised it up with these two plates. It already had the bolt holes in the back. These, they blend in, but these two aluminum plates already had the right holes, so I used those as the pattern to make the front two plates, which I made because this was originally just mounted flush on this bottom beam here. And it was attached in the rail at the bottom and on the back with the aluminum plate. So yeah, I raised it up with the two new plates, and also I changed out the bar in this because it's the female threaded part is just a brass pressed in insert, kind of like those. It's pretty much the same as those ones you get that you put on the end of your soldering iron and melt into plastic or whatever, or you press them into wood or anything. It was just pressed into the aluminum, and it I think it was on the, I can't remember which way it went, but on one of the turns it was pulling out of the aluminum, coming in or out, I can't remember, and that wasn't good. So for this top part of the slide, I changed that out. I threaded the aluminum all the way through the length of it, and then just put a piece of thread in there. And then I just had to figure out how to make sure this little handle, I was going to put a new handle on it, but it was easier just to do this one again. It already had a spot for a set screw to make sure it stayed where I wanted it. And there's a little tiny bearing in there. I reused most of it. All I did was just make a new threaded shaft that's full length, and it relies on the whole slide piece is threaded now because it's just soft aluminum. The bottom one I haven't had to do that with yet. It's not as finicky. It's actually alright, but we'll see over time. Still the same motor. I did have to permanently attach the pulley for it because, well, there's a lot of vibrations in an inefficient lathe, or even anything. But, like, you know, it vibrates loose the set screws. So I used JB Weld and whatnot, got it in its precise place, and haven't had the belt fly off or anything since I got it all where I want it. Well, where I want it, relatively speaking. I did accidentally permanently attach the large pulley before I realized that the shaft, the center shaft here, I don't know the terminology, so forgive me, but the center shaft was slid forward in its bearings just a tiny bit, and I didn't realize it. And so then when I was lathing and went to tighten everything up, over the time when I was turning it and pushing the piece this way towards the motor, it pushed this head and that shaft all the way back and seated it into its bearings where it was supposed to be to begin with. And then I realized, well, now my pulley was flinging the belt because they were just misaligned poorly. And I tried my damnedest to undo my permanent attachment without destroying this little aluminum pulley. I couldn't do it, and I wasn't willing to risk just cutting it off and making it, redoing it, or making a new pulley or anything like that. So what I wound up doing was that tiny little bit of a gap, which is only about that much between the bearing. So I tapped it back out where it was, basically, or back to where the pulley's in line, as much as I'm willing to accept. And it left me with about a gap. These are one of those little tiny screwdrivers, and the thickness of this is about the gap I had between the back of the headstock part where the flangey bit and then the bearing itself. So what I wound up doing is taking some heavy duty thick copper wire, not the little thin stuff that's in an AC 115. I forget what amp. I think it was 30 amp cord or something. I forget. I have copper wire laying around and stuff. I might have a piece here to show you left over from it, but I didn't have much of it. Probably don't. I don't know. But yeah, it's about that big around. And yeah, it took me a minute to make a nice neat circle out of it and get it pressed in there and everything and make it to where it's not going to wobble out. But yeah, that worked pretty good. Basically, I made a bushing out of copper that's the right diameter because it fits the thing perfectly, basically. And it's a wear bushing, it's copper. So that way, as this is pushing, it seats itself properly, and then in any parts that are rubbing on things that aren't spinning with it, because it spins, the bushing spins with the head. So if it's overlapping anything on the mount, which it's not, thankfully, but my plan was if it was, that it's copper, it'll wear itself in until, you know, just got to be gentle and slow on it, but it'll wear itself in. And luckily I got it good enough to where it's not a big deal. One thing I did do that hasn't been an issue yet, but I'm keeping my eye on it, is I took this face off, and it has some vent holes for the little electric motor, little DC 12 volt motor in here. I covered up those vent holes. It doesn't get hot. I also changed out the power supply. Wasn't entirely necessary, but its other power supply kept tripping every now and then. It's got a sensor on it, and I didn't like that sensor. So I switched it out for one that's just going to send me raw power all the time and doesn't have any sort of smart features. I don't like that. I'm not smart, so yeah. But yeah, so I didn't want dust and everything getting in on this side of the motor and ruining that, because while I do have other motors that would work, it would mean rebuilding a motor mount for it, because I don't have any that would fit inside this little thing. I do have some with the exact same style spline bit on the end for the pulley, some with slightly bigger diameter spline bit, so it's compatible. Just I would have to cut some of this up and make a new little motor mount and probably get a new belt for it. I don't want to do that anytime soon, so to make sure the motor doesn't get too much dust in there, I did that. It still can breathe on the other side. There's a lot of air hole for the other side where the actual sticks out. There's a big gap around the shaft, all of that, so it can breathe. And there's a little fan attached to the motor and stuff. It's a shitty little motor, but it does the job with the gear ratio. As long as you're patient, this thing really works. But I can't say it works out of the box. It doesn't. But, you know, modify it a little bit and it can do work. But that's kind of the point, is just to learn how to use a lathe. But yeah, I thought I'd show it. So it looks pretty good. I don't have it mounted on anything yet. One thing I am going to change again, another thing I am going to change is this. Currently its on-off switch is built in line with the cord. I don't like that. I keep finding myself looking for where it's at, and I'm going to end up putting it somewhere, you know, where it's supposed to be. here. I think the video is flipped. For me viewing it, the video is flipped right now, so I'll know when I go to save it and edit it. But yeah, so the on-off button will be about where it's supposed to be. Just a little button. I'll probably not have a switch. I think I have a few click switches, like push-in ones. I don't know, I'll have to go through my box of stuff. I think that one's behind me. I hoard all sorts of electronics and have a little tinker area here and outside and everywhere. But yeah, here, let me get you a closer view here. Yeah. Let's see, how do I rotate the camera? Nope, I just took a picture of my chinny chin chin. I don't think I can rotate the camera while it's in video mode. Hello there. Can I not? You know, I was born in the 90s. You'd think I know how to do this shit. But yeah. That's pretty much it. I made a custom little bit here for this. And so this part here, god dang it. You know what? Let me, alright, enough of that nonsense. I stopped it and I'll just edit these two clips together. Now I turned it around to where I can see the camera screen this way. It's all proper. Anyways, so I made that custom bit, which is, you know, just the thing. The one it came with was also shit. And there's a bearing in here and stuff. And so also this is shit. I had to take it apart and figure out how it works. It relies on a little retaining washer, basically, spring-loaded washer. It's just a washer that's bent in a conical kind of shape. You know, like those little toys that you'd press down and wait for a moment until they go pop. So it makes a spring. But yeah, there's a washer. So, but yeah, it's got a hole in it and it slips over a thing and then keeps this backing bit pressed that way. I thought this was all just completely threaded. No, it's like a little maze in there. It's like threads, but it's not quite threads. Like there's nothing keeping it in there except these. And those only lock in with it on a certain path. If that clip wasn't there, basically, it could pop back. And as you can see, there's a gap. It's because it tried to pop back. I'm worried one of these days that spring washer thing is going to give out. But either way, because I was having issues with gripping things, I was having to rely on like tightening this and stuff to keep it pressed up against it, so that as long as this didn't loosen up, like I wasn't able to get it as tight as I wanted it. I could get it tight enough to where it's not going to vibrate loose, but I couldn't get it as tight as I wanted it on this without it like either just shoving it out the other way or just popping that back, risking popping that backwards too far and me breaking it or something. So yeah, I've been relying on this, and that's why I remade that to be a little longer, and I still get my full... Right now I'm not relying on the adjustability of any of this or moving this whole plate or any of that because there's just no point. So basically the length of this is my room, which is there to there. So you could make a nice chess set with this if you're patient and whatnot. But this isn't a chess piece. This is actually going to be one of the tools. I'm making the second handle right now because the original little tools that came with it to change it are just two little things I've been using since they broke. I've been using just screwdrivers, and I've bent and broke a few of my screwdrivers. So I'm gonna change that, use better metal, and it's not gonna be long pieces. Like the pieces that came with it were like about that long, and they bent immediately. And so it's gonna be short, stubby pieces that fit perfectly, and you know, just a better version of the tool. So that way I can, and I might even make it to where one of them, I don't know, locks in or something. I don't know. We'll see. But right now I'm just making the other handle, and then I'll figure out how I want to do that. So I've been practicing a little at a time, getting better as far as, like I said, learning how to use a lathe. I don't know how to use a lathe properly. So let's see some of my samples here of practice. So yeah, I went to make a bead. I could probably still finish that now, but I took it off there. But I was gonna make a little bead. Let's see, here's one of the first ones I did, which turned out pretty smooth, but as you can see, there's like a spiral there. I didn't intend for that. I was moving too fast for this little lathe. Yeah, when I get, I'm autistic and ADD. Sometimes I just get it really in the groove of things, and apparently I was by hand spinning that thing really fast. But yeah, let's see, there's this little, this wasn't supposed to be anything, it was just me fiddling, mostly. Let's see, there's this one, which was meant to look like a little chess piece, because, you know, I'm planning on building a chess set with this, so I start slow and kind of build, or start seeing what I can get away with, what I can't, what it takes to actually make the things I want to make. Yeah, so there's that. Of course it broke, went flying. Then there's this little mushroom thingy. It was pretty neat. I was actually thinking when I was making it of like a lighthouse. Let's see. Yeah, it was made in this direction because I had, because I haven't switched out the angle or made any new. I have sharpened that and angled that the way I want it, but I haven't made any different ones to switch it out with yet. So it was in there this way. Yeah, it turned out to be something, but it was getting small enough I thought I better go ahead and take it out. I might put it back in and play with it later. And then there was this one, the more precise one that I was like trying to make the top of a pawn or something, or like one of those sorry pieces. I don't know. I was trying to make something that was actually rounded and more official, and see what I could do there. And it worked pretty good. And that's when I started making this. When I realized I figured out how to actually like do it. So like it's not just that tip, because, well, this is a shitty lathe. I can't get smooth, nice stuff with this tip. Even when I get it down to where finally it's not a blocky shape and I can get it relatively smooth, it's way better than that. Like none of these were like that. Well, that. So I can get it at least that smooth with just the lathe, or better. But then for like more progressive, getting better, I have this old broken little file which I can use on top of this right here. It sits, and I can put it at different angles and things, and it sits right there. So, and I can adjust, you know, where I have it and everything, and I can sit it on top of this, and I've been experimenting with that, getting it to where it's not going to kick back and all that stuff, figuring out where I have to put it, and that works great. And also the file itself works great to help. And then I have a big file here, but this file is going to get turned into a knife someday, so it's not going to be around forever. But I also have this handle that I made a long time ago, but I didn't lathe that. That's out of an old chair leg. It used to have a file in it until my good file broke. It was really old. And so for now, it's got a little bit of a saw blade in it that I've been using for little stuff. And some glue, some resin, which I could probably chemically get out, or I'll just drill it. I don't care. Yeah, this works good for like going this way a little bit, just kind of finessing things whenever I'm having trouble getting this where I want, because like I said, right now I don't have different ones. I need to take the time and take some of my old broken drill bits and things, like, you know, drill bits. This one's not broken, but I have a bunch of them that are broken, and make some more things for it, different tips and things. So I'll do that eventually. But yeah, I've kind of got that little array, and then I've got this little hammer I already had. I put the brass piece on it. Needed that because I've been banging on this little thing a lot in a lot of places, so I can use the brass. And I put this old drawer handle on there, which has held up so far. I threaded it on there and everything. It was, actually it's pressed on there. The hole was way smaller. And then I was too ornery to try and get it, like, to be a precision fit, so I just, well, it was proof of concept that this would hold up as a mallet, that's for sure, because I pressed it on there by hammering it with another hammer, my regular ball peen hammer. And then once I did, I gave it a good and engaged the threads that are on this, because this is one of them that changes the threads. Seems to be fine. If it ever wears out or comes off, that's fine too. I mean, it's just temporary. Makes a neat little, looks like a doctor's mallet, but it does work good for finessing little things here and there. I mostly use the brass side, but the bigger side helps out a little bit here and there, moving things that I've gotten tight. And because this isn't a great lathe, that's something you gotta like this. There's wiggle room. Like, if I might have to knock here to get this angled right so where it lines up with that, or here, you can angle them right all you want, and then tighten everything down, and then eventually it's just gonna whoop whoop move around on you. So mallet, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be whatever you want it to be, really. And if you want it to be perfect, make it perfect. I'm sure it could be, but not in its current form. But yeah, it's pretty neat. I like it. I do need to remake this top bit, which I have not done yet, and I'm probably not going to. I'm probably going to remake the entire side bit here, mostly so that it's, I don't know. I want it to be bigger handles, or bigger pulley, or yeah, bigger bits. And there's no room to add a bigger one with it this close right there. So I have to shift that out, but yet still keep it sturdy and all that. So I'm going to be remaking all of this eventually. And that's when I'll make this to where it has like something easier to tighten and loosen the parts. I had this little keychain looking wrench for years just laying around. It didn't fit, but I ground it to, you know, now it's the tool changer. I have a bunch of these too, but they're too soft, they strip out. I tried one there. But that's pretty much it. Let's see what else we got. I don't think there's anything else to show you just yet. Still working on other projects and things, but mostly just taking it easy for a minute, playing with my toy lathe, working up to making chess pieces over the winter. This is what I plan on doing while it's cold out, and whenever I'm bored, is just come over here, sit down by the lathe, and slowly turn chess pieces. But yeah, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think.